everyone. Welcome to our workshop. I'm Natalia and I work with the marketing team at Itsavirus. Today we're going to be talking about MVPs and I couldn't be more excited. It's crucial to develop your product efficiently and get user feedback before launching the final version. In this workshop, we're going to show you how to turn your ideas to MVP. We've got an amazing speaker here to guide us through the process. Let's introduce Johan Verhul, our CEO at Itsavirus. With decades of experience in the software industry, he's the perfect person to help us to turn your ideas to MVP faster with less risk. Before we dive in, make sure to mute yourself and feel free to turn on your camera if you want. And if you have any questions during this session, just type them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we go along. We will send you a recording of the session afterwards. So Johan, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Leah. Let me get straight into it and share my screen because I prepared a presentation. All right, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. It's great to have so many people here. Like I shared already on my LinkedIn, is like I expected maybe 20, 30 people to subscribe and then maybe 5 people to join, because after all, it's pretty niche, right? How to develop a minimum viable product. But it's great to see that in this time of a little bit economic uncertainty, many people are at least contemplating on building something new. So it's super cool. Let's get into it with a short introduction. So for the people who are here and don't know me, so my name is Jochem. Originally, I'm from the Netherlands, but already in Indonesia for 4.5 years. And we have a software company here. So we have about 60 employees. We work on building all kinds of applications for clients all over the world. So we focus on mobility, logistics, Web3, and we now have some e-health, which is really nice. I did a number of startups and successfully and also unsuccessfully. And what I realized is like I've been building digital products my entire career, so I did nothing else. So made many mistakes, and I'm happy to share my hard-learned lessons with you. And I hope you can. I hope it prevents you from making the same mistakes I did. So let's go next one. So before we start, some of the basics about what a minimum viable product is. I'm not sure about everyone who is joining, right? So I don't know if everyone knows what an MVP is, but an MVP is a minimum viable product. So you build a software product that only does what it should do in order to onboard your client and sell a product, sell your services, download the app, and nothing more, which can be pretty tricky. And the idea is like if you build a product so small that it only does what it should do, you can validate whether or not people are crazy enough to spend a little bit of money on your idea. So it's nice to test the water. It's nice to see if there is a product market fit. By the way, everyone who is in the call, feel free to interrupt me. Feel free to ask questions via the chat. I'm always happy to answer. Okay, so I also made some assumptions because this is the context we operate in. So I assume that there is a level of complexity. I assume there are stakeholders, clients, or investors. I assume you have some funding. Can be cash, can be also the fact that you have other people who dedicate their time on building your application. And it is on a level that you cannot just click a website together via all kinds of amazing tools that are available. So you need to collaborate on this one to make it a success. So what typically goes wrong? Of course, the first one, right? Project just takes too long, and therefore they're over budget, and they take too long because features have been developed that nobody is using. There's no product owner, no, etc., etc. In the end, it can cause a lot of frustration. So it is great if you can. Here we are. I will not go into detail on this one. So some of the challenges that come with an MVP are like the contradictions. Like, so you can build something super low tech and quickly go live, which is great. But what happens if you onboard a certain number of clients? Do you need to totally rebuild it or not? So is it scalable? Let's say you build a booking platform, and there will be certain processes that come with processing and booking. So it says your presentation is not shared. Is it shared now?
We cannot share. We cannot see your presentation.
Is it shared now, Ria?
Nope.
And now?
It's loading.
Okay, so some of the challenges that come with with building an MVP are these contradictions, like low tech versus scalability, manual processes versus automation. Do you want to raise money quickly, or will you bootstrap? Do you accept certain issues within your app before you go live, or does it has to be perfect? Can you click everything together using tools, or do you decide to build from scratch? It all has upsides and downsides. So how do you build an MVP efficiently without making too many of these super painful mistakes? One thing is, okay, think agile, be super flexible, but no, don't think agile, because you need to find some kind of middle way here. You need to have a plan, but you also allow yourself to be able to like iterate along the way. So stick to the plan, but take it step by step. So that's why a few years ago we made a method that takes you through 8 steps, and within each step certain iterations are allowed. And but after you've finished the tasks in such a step, like there cannot be any iterations. So this is a little bit how it looks like from, or a little bit. This is just exactly how it looks like from idea to MVP. So you see the 8 steps: define what to build, prepare, prototype, design, develop a beta, test, soft launch, and go live. But each of these steps contains a large number of tasks. And so I will go deeper into these steps, and I wrote down a number of these tasks. Like if we are working on a project, usually there are more tasks. So, but what I try to do is I try to create at least share with you the basics. Before we go into these phases, I would like to share with you a startup we are working on. What these guys did was pretty smart. They are already advertising without the project being live or finished. And they basically ask like, hey, we are building this application. Are you interested in joining? And what we see here is that there are already over 500 possible clients and over 18 companies who told us, yeah, like, I'm interested, I will join. So there are, and we spent, I think, like $100 on advertising. So this is this gives us already a great validation of the idea even before we launched. Important is, of course, that you're honest in your communication if you do such a thing. So if you would share with your with people on Instagram, like, hey, I have this app, and no, you have to be honest. Say, okay, I'm building this one. Would you be interested? So let's go to step one. What I see with the projects that have challenges, and also what I saw with the projects that I did before, that caused serious problems sometimes, is looking back. This was one of the main reasons a project goes wrong, is because in the end you can have a nice idea and quickly start working on it, but if you haven't thought through of the basics, and the basics can be like your vision, your business model, and how does your marketing strategy look like, who is your target audience exactly, you will have to figure out these things along the way while you are building. And if you're building and you suddenly you realize, like, oh shit, this business model that I thought of, it's not as great as I assumed it to be. We have to change. Okay, shit, that will cause delay in the development process. It's going to cost money, and it will definitely cause a lot of frustration. So I'm not saying you need to write down lengthy business plans, because you don't want to. You make this for yourself, right? So it's a business plan. You make it to raise money, and this is something you do because you want to define the basics of your product really, really well. So, and the last step maybe is also one of the most important things. Like, just already in the beginning, write down, like, what will your MVP do? Try to write it down in just a few sentences, because it's easy to get creative and like write a few pages on it. But it also probably means, like, if you need so much text, it's difficult to make an MVP out of it. So number two is, and this is usually when we as a company can start working on a project. So and this list is usually a bit longer, but these are the most important things. Before you start working on a product, make sure you have a product owner. I cannot stress it enough. The product owner is responsible for filtering the needs of the business, of a CEO, and make sure that there's some kind of pushback. Because what CEOs sometimes have as a character trait is they come in the room, they have a new idea, and everyone needs to do it. That's great because they are enthusiastic, they are passionate about their business. However, for product development, it's just really bad if that happens. So you need a strong product owner who can tell a CEO, like, this is a great idea, we'll put it on a backlog, but we'll focus on building this MVP first, because otherwise we will never be able to also realize your new creative ideas. So then set up the collaboration tools. We use Jira, GitHub, Google Drive, and then make sure you have all the meeting routines ready. We use Scrum. Our teams usually also work with objective key results. If you don't know objective key results, it's really useful to prioritize your tasks, not only on the short term, but also on the long term. Then, if it's possible, already define like a high level roadmap, because you can define an MVP, but it's also nice to know, like, what is most likely to follow next, because with that in mind, you can build a better MVP. If you know, I'm building a booking platform, but there will be a large social component to it, then okay, within you have to take into account if you select a framework that you want to work with or the database design. Then schedule a deadline, and there are like a number of deadlines. If we work with with clients, what I tell them is like, okay, it will be 4 months, and then I internally we say, okay, deadline is 3 months. So we toward the client we have like 1 month leeway, and I tell the client like, if you have stakeholders, just tell them it will be 5 months. So make sure we keep these expectations a bit low. Because what usually happens is you encounter complexities that you haven't thought of. There are some new insights, so it can take a bit longer, and that's okay. Right? But just don't get everyone excited and then disappointed if you're 2 weeks late. Just under promise and over deliver. So next are the user stories and prototyping. The user stories are important, not only to figure out what the hell it is that you want to build, but also later on when you want to test, when you want to optimize tests. So you will use these user stories for the entire life cycle of your product. If I again have to make a booking platform, and one of the most important user stories is, can I log in, log out, can I pay? You can make optimized tests out of that, and you can check every time you deploy a new release, like, are these most important functionalities of my platform still working? So by investing a bit of time in the beginning, it will save you a lot of time later on, and frustration. So after that, you can create some basic wireframes, make some designs, and prototype. These prototypes are important, especially when you have other stakeholders. For example, you have a startup, you have an investor. The investor threw $200,000 into your app. You want to show your investor early on what it is that you want to develop. And if you show your investor user stories, a wireframe, or other things that are just a bit boring, the possibilities of your investor getting these user stories or understanding the wireframes, it's possible that he just doesn't understand it. So what you want to, because he hasn't been part of the intellectual journey to create these user stories. So what they all understand is a great design. So if you can show off a design that just looks awesome, you can validate if you are heading into the right direction, you can discuss it, and keep everyone happy. Let me check. I see some questions popping in. Oh yeah, so okay, yeah, we will send a recording of this webinar once it's over. Okay. And again, feel free to interrupt me if you have questions about certain steps that you see here. So number 4, after you have created a prototype, the next step is make sure that there's a great design that developers can actually use to start building later on. So when I talk about design, it's not just only a visual design, it's also a technical design. So make sure there's a basic technical architecture, make sure that all the user stories are there. What are the business rules? Make sure you write them down instead of just discussing them and maybe forget it. As you might know, there are so many great tools out there that you can use in order to optimize business processes without actually building software. So you can just check whatever is there to use and to adopt. And once you are at this stage, it is a good moment to refine your roadmap, because in a few stages, in step 2, you already had developed a rough version of what your roadmap can be, but now you have a good picture on your MVP. It's also a good moment to double check your roadmap, see if you can make it more detailed. So next step is starting the real work. So let's start coding. One of the mistakes many developers do make is ignoring GitHub and having a great workflow. Even good developers. It's interesting to see. I don't know exactly why, but make sure you have a great technical workflow set up from day one. If you have not, if you don't do it, and you collaborate with several engineers on one project, it can just cause a lot of problems later on if you deploy code to production. What you can do is, while building, also ask people if they want to subscribe for your product or service. Like I shared before, it's great to already do some advertising, because if you can get people to subscribe for the app that you are building, later on you can use them not only for becoming a client, but also it's super nice if you can use them to become testers later on your platform. So it's really nice to engage with them. So after you have completed the development of your beta version, it's time to start testing and debugging. And don't underestimate this phase. Things go wrong all the time, always. So just take your time for it and don't get stressed out. If you plan in advance a lengthy period, you will be fine. If you think like after the beta version, I just need a week to do some tweaks and I'm done, you will not be fine. So you will have a factory acceptance test, meaning that developers will test internally. There will be a QA person testing it. There will be bug fixing, and then you will have a user acceptance test, meaning you need real users to test your platform. So you can source these real users from the people who subscribed for your application, that the people that responded on your ad. So if you ask these people, like, what do you think, you will get some great response, but it's not the feedback that you at this stage want. You want to ask people validation on your user stories. Can you log in? Can you make a booking? Can you log out? Can you reset your password? Do you receive email? Which device are you using, etc.? So you get like real nice technical feedback. Afterwards, after you fixed all the issues, make sure security is top-notch, and then start onboarding a limited number of users. But maybe you can just go like do a soft launch on a domain that not a lot of people know. So you can get some real people that you don't know. So here we go. If you want to launch, do it step by step. So assume there are still some things wrong here. So make sure you think everything is correct. So all content is there, all your tools are there, and go live. But then, for example, what you can do is just push your app in the App Store or go live on a domain, but don't share it. Just share, at least don't push it on your socials. Don't do marketing. Just send it to a bunch of friends, because, I mean, you can make crazy mistakes like spelling errors on your homepage, which you just don't see anymore because you have been working on this app for so long that you have some blind spots for these things. And after you're pretty sure that everything is okay, then okay, boom, just really go live with the bang. That's start off with some small marketing campaigns, and then you'll start with the normal normal process of improving along the way, adding features and in making improvements along the way. How you do it is, so what we do is we make a long list of the features that we have, and we add next to the features the expected business value and the expected costs, and then you can just filter the features on like what will bring the most business value against the lowest cost, and you just start working your way down. So you always make sure that whatever the team is working on will deliver the most value. Of course, you can just override that as a founder, because sometimes you'll just have to work on things that you think are important or you think are pretty, which is totally fine as well. It's part of just realizing your dream. So there are two important things here, I think. What I saw with some apps that we developed is, first of all, product market fit does not mean your company can become profitable. I saw we developed an app for a person in the insurance industry, and the app worked brilliantly. You quickly onboarded a lot of users, but as we go, we saw that the expected costs of handling a client were just much higher compared to what he assumed. So although there was a product market fit, it also meant that with every client that he got, he just onboarded new costs. And the market is designed in such a way that he wasn't just never ever going to be able to make money out of it. So the glorified idea of if you have a product market fit, you can scale. There is a nuance there. It's not always true. Sometimes it's just too complex to do that. The costs are higher than what you're ever going to get out of it. So you have to know when to stop, or you have to know when to pivot. And like really at the beginning, so we had step one. What you can add here is some definitions of success, but also a definition of failure. When are you absolutely sure that if you are here in step 8, you're going live? If, for example, after 3 months and 10,000 users, or if you're live with for 3 months, you spend $10,000 on advertising, and there's just nothing happening. Okay, you know when to stop. You just have to stop or pivot. Don't continue for too long. All right.
There's a very good questions from Salini Powell. He or she asked, is it safe to share your ideas with the dev service team, or should we lawyer up from the beginning? Maybe Shalini Powell, do you want to elaborate your questions? You can on your camera and you can talk. You can unmute.
Yeah, thanks. I cannot come on the camera as of now, but I can, I can speak. Am I audible?
Yes, no worries.
No worries.
All right. Thanks so much. So what I wanted to know was that, like, you have an idea for an MVP. So do you first, like, how safe is it to share it with different teams? If you're not a developer yourself, and then you have to share your ideas for, with different teams to shortlist, which are the people you're going to go, who are going to develop your MVP. So do you lawyer up from the beginning, or you can, like, it's too early for that?
It's really simple, I think. So what we have is an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, that we sign when conversations are getting a bit more serious. So it's just really nice to cover that from day one. So let's say the project is not going through, and you will never have this discussion. So that's secured from both sides. That being said, I think usually you are safe, because if you are a developer or an entrepreneur, also, like, there's a great idea which is really important, but there's so much work in building this idea into an app that works and then making it a success. So you need a dedicated team usually to make money out of something. So the possibilities of a team that is already active working on something, stealing your idea, are not super high, but just cover it with an NDA.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No worries. Good question.
Yeah. There's another question from Jenny Dew. Based on your experience, what are the most common pitfalls when creating an MVP and how can you avoid them?
Good one. So the most common pitfalls, I think there are 3. So first of all, it's not defining the MVP that goes wrong, but building the MVP and then allowing too many iterations during the development. Like we had one project. It's 12 years ago or longer that it's the only project that I never was able to push to production. And it was also, I think, the project where, of course, I learned the most from. So you have to make some mistakes. But what happened there was we we had a pretty clear description on what to build. However, at that moment, I still lacked some experience, I think, to push people back. So I wanted to please this client. I really want to make sure that the client is just happy. And I had a strong creative designer as well. And this creative designer and the client, they were just ping-ponging ideas all the time and then come back. It's like, oh, yes, we need to do this. And I was like, okay, yes, let's do it, out of genuine enthusiasm as well. So eventually, instead of 9 months development, it took like 2 years. And afterwards, we ended up with like a massive platform with many features that have never been requested. Some of the features were already useless. And the client was so frustrated that they said like, we will do something else. Like, shit. So allowing these iterations was a major mistake, and I saw that happening afterwards a lot with many different projects, also projects that we were not involved in when I help other agencies, for example. So that is number 1. So make sure you define whatever you want to develop really, really well, and be creative and just allow all these ideas. But once you have completed your basic idea of your MVP and your designs and your business model, develop and launch that first, and instead of just going wild. So it also, number 2 is a lack of vision. And I think a lack of vision is causing iterations along the way, because if you know exactly what to do, why you are in this field, why you solve this problem, things become much easier. But if you are unsure, then it's a recipe for a disaster, because you will be continuously unsure about what to do. So make sure that you define really well what your vision for your project is. And number 3 is a lack of a good project structure. So if people think like, hey, we know each other, we like each other, we just start working together, but there's not a product owner, people are not working in sprints, it quickly becomes an uncontrollable mess. So these are the 3 main things that pop in my mind now. Other ones, Leah?
Okay, great. There's a comment from Arman Riazi. He said that ABM, but must be better way with better UI. If you have programming skills, it will help you too. What do you think about that?
I have to check. What is ABM?
Maybe Arman Riazi, do you want to elaborate your questions or comments? Feel free to unmute yourself. The definition of ABM, it's not really clear. Arman, do you mean account-based marketing or what? Or probably we can go to the next questions from Andres. How can you create a roadmap for your MVP and plan for future iterations and growth?
Yeah, good one, because usually it's just lacking. People have a lot of ideas in their mind, but not everyone just takes the time to write them down, and it can be super simple. Just take a document and say, okay, step one is the MVP, step two is this feature, step three, no. Just start writing it down, and then after that, just make a Gantt chart out of it. So to just get the basics. It's super valuable to have to write it down in that way. And from that moment on, you can go into more detail, put it in Jira, make tasks, make milestones, break them down, create sprints. But just to write down your general idea, that's what it all starts with. Okay, so I see Arman replying. So ABM is an outstanding modeling technique to build. I have to get into this together with you, Arman, to have a good conversation on this, I think, because it's pretty specific. So, or maybe you can unmute or and further explain it. Yeah. So okay. Feel free to reach out to me, Arman. I love these discussions.
Okay, thank you, Arman.
Do we have other?
Yeah, we have other questions from Ika. What are the legal and ethical consideration when creating an MVP, based on your experience?
Yeah, like ethical, interesting, of course, because you just have to obey the law. So that is, for me personally, I really don't like a lot of gambling stuff. But that's up to you. Just obey the law and do whatever you think is right. And legally, it is really important to validate whether or not you can launch your service or your sell your product. Right? It's not always easy to do so. Yeah, I have to check if I can come up with a issue, but especially, of course, in the Web3 space, you have to be careful what you do. There is also, in terms of services, you cannot sell every service in every country. So just make sure that you check the existing rules and regulations, I would say.
We have another questions from Ligar. How can you balance the need for speed with the need for quality when building an MVP?
Yeah, that is exactly the the challenge, and I would say the quality goes down the more iterations you allow during the development of your 1.0. Once your 1.0 is out there and it does only what it can do or should do, then it's easy to add new features. But in general, if you build a solid foundation and then you change the model, it is it's annoying, because from day one you will have some legacy code. There will be some elements in your database that you cannot use. So from day one, it will be a bit messy. So just make sure that you prepare really well, release that 1.0 and iterate from there.
There's a unique questions here. What are some tools and techniques for creating a rapid prototype of your MVP?
Yeah, especially now there are so many great tools out there to quickly build a website, quickly build an app. I'm currently playing around with Framer to see how it works. I must say it's just amazing to see if you're into just web development and you want to release a just simple website. Man, it's so powerful. And of course, if you need to do more, then it quickly becomes complex. So everything front-end related, no problem. And there are great tools with Zapier and to connect existing tools together. So do your research there, but I would say that the moment you have users that need to be able to log in and do some kind of activity, have a profile, it quickly becomes you quickly reach a level where coding is required and some technical knowledge is required. You can, for example, move to use WordPress because there are so many great modules or plugins that you can use with WordPress. What I see is with companies that started off like that, eventually they have like this massive WordPress installation with so many modules that nobody knows exactly how it works anymore, but everyone depends on it. Respect, of course, that they came so far with this setup, but yeah, just do your research on it. There are so many great tools available, but I think there at the moment when there is some complexity involved, you just need to start coding.
Okay, great. Maybe one last questions, Johan. From Dwi. What lessons have you learned or what mistakes have you experienced while creating an MVP and how did you mitigate them?
Yeah, so I mitigate them with this process, and I made many mistakes before I had this process in place. So the mistake that I already shared was being too nice and being too enthusiastic about new feature requests. So I didn't recognize the need for releasing a 1.0 quickly and then iterate based on user feedback and data instead of just random new ideas. Number one, or number two is on a startup that I did, I underestimated the effort that it would take to go from MVP to a enterprise-ready solution, because I thought like the normal how we normally do it, you build an MVP and you have some traction and you add features. What I didn't know yet was that you can be live and it works, it's great, but in order to make some real money here, you'll just need to work for another year. That's but this was quite a massive project, so but that's definitely a lesson learned. And again, I would stress the quality of collaboration. So the just working in with existing frameworks and tools. Just work with Scrum. Make sure you have a good definition of what you do. Make sure there's a good product owner. I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Okay, great. Thanks, Johan. I think we're done with the questions.
Alrighty.
Do you have any questions, everyone? If it's not, we can wrap it up. How about you, Johan?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, there's questions from Nicola Trevsger. Nicola is raising his hand. Hi, Nicola, you can unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was quite interesting to watch that. Seen a few of those things. I've seen that. A few of those things I also had my own experience with it. So the 5-minute prototype to the 2-year development, I had that experience before. So thank you for that. I went a little bit over your websites and stuff, and I'm curious, are you guys now located in Bali or in Singapore? Okay, my question was, are you guys now located in Bali or in Singapore?
Good question. So in the COVID, we had an office in Amsterdam, Singapore, and in Indonesia. And then COVID struck, and we thought, like, hey, where are we going to base ourselves? And then we still have like a virtual office in Singapore, but everyone is just based in Bali.
Okay, it's quite interesting because I just did that move 2 years ago as well. I'm in Bali right now from Germany. So it's a really coincidence actually to came up into this presentation. and find that out actually when I check your stuff online. It's really nice actually.
Okay. Feel free to reach out. We can have a cup of coffee. Always nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right. Yeah, just if you can reach out on LinkedIn, that would be cool. Let's do so.
I will do that.
All right.
I think there are no other questions here, so let's just wrap it up, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
so much for joining us today. Thank you, Johan, for your amazing presentation.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, we hope you find this workshop insightful and helpful for your business. And if you enjoyed this workshop, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and our website here in the chat box. We regularly host events with seasoned experts in tech industry. And once again, thank you for your time. And we hope to see you at the next workshop. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.